Hello, everyone. My name is Catherine. Thanks for joining tonight. This is the lottery for the 30 affordable rental units at Slade Farm Residences in Somerset. So I'll get the lottery underway in just a few minutes. If you have any questions during the session, I see there's quite a few of you here. If you have any questions, we just ask that you either ask the question in the chat or you can unmute yourself and ask that question. So when you came into the room, you were muted just to minimize outside noise, but you're welcome to ask any questions. And this meeting is being recorded. You should have heard that prompt when you entered the meeting as well. It's being recorded so that anyone who wasn't able to join us tonight is able to watch it on our YouTube channel afterwards. So just to give you some background information before I run the drawing of how many applicants applied, and all this information is going to be sent to you by email later on along with the waiting list tonight. So just a quick overview. Everybody should already have their lottery application number. That was in the form of a series of numbers. So tonight, the numbers are between A.001 and A.0237. If you don't have that number, if you forgot it, let me know, because that is the number that's going to be read or shown in the drawing tonight instead of having names called. So there are 30 total affordable apartments. There was 227 total completed applications. So there's going to be 227 households in the lottery. The numbers go up to 237 because we needed to remove 10 duplicate applicants. So that's the reason they go up a little bit higher. There's 16 one-bedroom apartments. There was 80 applicants for those one-bedrooms. One of the one-bedroom units is disabled accessible, and there were 8 applicants who reported needing the required accessibility features. So they will have priority on the one-bedroom disabled accessible unit waiting list. There's also 11 two-bedroom apartments. There was 95 applicants for those 2 bedrooms. One of the 2 bedrooms is disabled accessible, and there are 7 applicants for that disabled accessible unit. There's also 3 three-bedroom apartments. That was the most popular. There's 101 applicants for the 3 bedrooms. And again, there's 1 3-bedroom unit that is disabled accessible. There's 2 applicants who required the accessibility features of that 3-bedroom. So back when you completed your lottery application, you indicated, and then SEB Housing confirmed your household type, either 1, 2, or 3. It's kind of according to how many people are in your household. So just keep in mind that for 2 and 3 bedrooms, so the larger apartments, the larger type 2 or type 3 households are going to have priority over smaller type 1 households on the waiting list. And that's because the affordable program is designed so that the smaller households don't have priority for larger units that they may not actually require. So you are free to apply for a larger household, but you're not going to have priority unless for a 3-bedroom apartment or a type 3 household, or for a 2-bedroom apartment if you're a type 2 or 3 household. There's also local preference for several of the affordable units. So if you answered yes to the local preference question on the lottery application, you're going to have to submit something after the lottery confirming that you either live, work full-time, or have a student going to Somerset Public Schools. So all of that is to say, when I do the drawing tonight, you're not going to know for certain where you fall on the waiting list, because even if you're drawn first, because I still need to sort the results onto these individual 1-bedroom, 2-bedroom, 3-bedroom waiting lists according to household type and all of that. But the good news is I plan to sort them tonight, so you will get an email with the waiting list showing where you actually fall on those waiting lists later on tonight. So you'll get that email later on and won't have to wait too long to know exactly where you stand. So there's going to be 2 lottery drawings. I'll be using the website called random.org to complete those drawings. The first drawing is going to be the local preference drawing. That's going to include the 54 households who indicated that they either live in Somerset, work full-time in the town, or, like I said, have a student going to Somerset Public Schools. So I'll insert those 54 application numbers into a list randomizer, it's called, function on random.org, and the website will digitally generate a random order, and that is the lottery drawing. So rather than pulling numbers out of a box that you might think of with certain lotteries, it's going to be done digitally, so you're able to see the results, and they're truly as random as possible. After I do the local preference drawing, I'm going to do the just general drawing that includes all 227 application numbers, and I'll just repeat that same process again. So I'm just going to give a quick demonstration of what that looks like. So when I actually do the drawing, you are able to understand a little better what I'm doing. So I'm going to go to random.org. I'm going to share my screen so you can see it. And again, this is just a demonstration about how the drawing is going to go in just a couple minutes. So this is just, again, for demonstration purposes. This isn't the lottery drawing yet, but this is just the really basic website, random.org. If I scroll down and go to list randomizer, I'm going to copy and paste all of the lottery application numbers into this box in the middle of the screen when I'm doing the drawing. For demonstration purposes, I'm just going to write 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 in there. When you're looking for your lottery application number, it's going to be in the form of, A.005 or whatever your number is. So just for demonstration purposes, again, this is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I'm going to click randomize like I'm going to do in a few minutes when I run the lottery, and then it spits back out a random order of those numbers. So that's how the drawings are going to take place in just a few minutes. That will be the lottery drawing. I'll take a minute to copy all of the results onto a spreadsheet that I have, and then I will scroll down the spreadsheet so you can find your number, and if you don't see it, you can go ahead and let me know in the chat that you would like me to look it up for you. So I'll share my screen again in just a couple minutes, but that's how it's going to work. Yeah, I'll be doing that in just a minute. So again, the random.org generates that instantaneous order for us, and that list allows me to have an order of priority for the waiting list that I'm going to be generating tonight. And the waiting list determine the order in which your household will get to reserve an apartment. So it's important to remember that, again, the lists that you see tonight on the screen are not going to be the final order of the waiting list because I have to do that sorting. So that email that will come to you later on tonight will have more information on next steps, and there will be the waiting list attached as a PDF file to the email that you get. Keep in mind, too, that if you indicated that you were interested in more than one unit size, you're going to be on more than one waiting list. So if you were interested in both a 1-bedroom and a 2-bedroom, you're going to be on the waiting list for both. And even if you're not a local preference household, you're going to have a placement on the local preference waiting list. So just keep that in mind. You're going to be below all of the households who have local preference, but you will still have a place on those local preference waiting lists if you don't have local preference. So when you get that email, you're going to see the waiting list. You're going to see that there's a few households at the top of each waiting list that are highlighted in green. Their lottery application numbers are highlighted in green. And that's just indicating that those households are going to be immediately invited forward to move on to the next step in the process, which is completing a lease application with the leasing office over at Slade Farm. So you'll be sent contact information tonight with the leasing office. They'll have your contact information after tonight as well. So anyone who is moving on to that next step will be in touch with them to get in touch within about a week to complete that lease screening. And it's very possible that the leasing office is going to screen more households than there are available apartments. That's typical for a management company. They're going to do that to make sure that the lease up process is moved along as quickly as possible. There's applicants who drop off, they maybe aren't eligible, or they're not interested in renting there anymore. So if you are found to be lease eligible by the leasing office, just a reminder, that you'll then be able to reserve one of the apartments, and you'll be sent back to SEB Housing to complete your program eligibility screening. Because remember, up until this point, you've just submitted your lottery application that is self-reporting your income to us. But during the program screening with SEB Housing, you'll need to submit, pay stubs, verifications of your income, that sort of thing. So your takeaway should be that if you're not one of those top households that's highlighted in green on the waiting list,
it's like an introduction,
then you won't be able to move forward in this process right away. But as people drop off the waiting list, it's possible that we would reach your placement on the waiting list because, when households are being screened for eligibility by both the leasing office and SEB Housing, there are going to be some people who drop off the waiting list. So it's not usually there's 5 units available and we screen 5 people and all of those units are filled by those first 5 applicants. It usually takes a lot more than that. So every household who was found eligible for the lottery should have also received that documentation requirements guide. So it's just kind of a cheat sheet to get you prepared for what you'll need to submit to us if you are moving on in the process and need to submit pay stubs to us and things like that. If you move on to that step in the process, SEB Housing works with you to make sure that you get everything into us. And you have about 10 days to get it into us, but if you need extensions on that, we always work with you. The leasing office at Slade Farm has let us know that the first available affordable units are scheduled to be available for occupancy in August, with additional units in other buildings becoming available in October. So not all of them will be available right off the bat, but the wait won't be too long for the other ones. And then finally, just a reminder for anyone who leases an affordable apartment, you will need to do a recertification every year. And that recertification usually starts, but the process starts a couple of months before your lease renewal. So if you were to sign a lease for September 1st at Slade Farm, you would have a recertification around this time or maybe a little bit earlier next year. So we always just remind everyone to maintain records of your income, your tax documentation, all of that, because it will be necessary. And I know there's a couple of questions. So there's a question here. I'm not sure if I did multiple bedrooms, but I wanted to apply for 2 and 3. So if your lottery application didn't indicate the bedroom sizes that you were interested in, you're unfortunately only going to be on the waiting list for the application for the bedroom sizes that you applied for. So there was an email that was sent to you by SEB Housing confirming what your application sent, and you would have needed to reply to that and say, actually, I want to change my application and apply to other unit sizes. So for now, it's only going to be whatever you applied for. The next question here is, when are the units available? So I mentioned that just now. The first units will be available next month in August. How is income verified? So there's a lot of information on that in the information packet, and there's also a lot of information on that in the documentation requirements guide. So that is what you should look at. That was sent to you as either a hyperlink in your email or with the same email that you got your lottery application number. So you should take a look at that. Generally, if you're employed, it's going to be pay stubs, it's going to be W-2s, it's going to be bank statements, it's going to be, depending on everybody's circumstance, it's a little bit different. If you're self-employed, if you're not self-employed, so there's some answers to that in there. Is there any way you can tell me my lottery number? I couldn't find my email and haven't reached out and haven't heard back. So, yep, you want to send me, I can see your name on here, but why don't you send me a message to just me? So when you are in here, you're able to select to message only me. I would just need your full name to look at that. Or an email address. I could probably look it up that way as well. Any other questions before I start the drawing? And again, I'm going to screen share so you can see it happening. I'm just going to bring up the database here in case you get back to me with your info so I can look up your lottery application number. Are these units RAFT approved? So RAFT funds should be able to be used wherever you decide to rent. It wouldn't be something that was not able to be used. So yeah, you should be able to use them here. So Savannah, if you could send me your info, I should be able to look up either your email address or your full name. Let me try to send you. I did find one Savannah in here, so I just want to confirm if it's you, and then I can give you your number. All right, so I'm going to start the drawing. Yeah, so Savannah, you are A.0058. Okay, so with that, I'm going to open up random.org again, I should say, so you can see the drawing happening. Give me a sec here. All right, so I'm back in random.org. Share my screen. And I have, I'm going to go back to list randomizer, open up a new one here. And I have a spreadsheet with all of the local preference lottery application numbers. So what I'm going to do is there's 54 numbers here. It goes down to 55 because of the heading. So I'm going to grab all of these. Oops. I'm going to grab all of these, and I'm going to copy and paste them into the list randomizer. And that is how we're going to run this drawing. So this is 54 entries here. This is the local preference lottery drawing for Slade Farm in Somerset. And when I click randomize, it's going to randomize these numbers into an order of priority for the local preference household. So I clicked randomize, and this is the local preference household lottery drawing. So just bear with me here. I'm going to put all this info into the spreadsheet. It's a little bit easier to for you to view once I have, I'm going to move these things around a little bit. I'm going to hide this first row so there's no confusion. And this was the local preference drawing results. So I'm going to do the general drawing, and then I'm going to go back to all of these so you'll be able to see your results. So I'm going to go back to beginning of random.org, and I'm going to take all of the lottery application numbers from the general drawing list. So this is all 227 lottery application numbers. So not just the local preference households now, but everyone. So I'm going to take all of these, and I'm going to, again, insert them into the randomizer here. So this is the drawing for Slade Farm. This is everyone. So this is the general drawing for the affordable apartments at Slade Farm. So I'm going to click randomize. Again, there was 227 items here because this is all 227 applicant numbers. And again, I'm going to go back to my spreadsheet here just so it's a little bit easier to see. And then I will scroll down so you're able to take a look at the results. Once again, I just want to remind everyone, this is not these aren't the waiting list yet. This is just the drawing. So I still have to sort the results onto the waiting list. So the first lottery application number that was drawn for the general drawing, as you can see, was A.0146. It doesn't mean that that person has the first position on any waiting list, because we don't know what household type they are, what they applied for. We don't know if they're local preference or not. So just keep that in mind. It doesn't tell you a whole lot here, but it is better than, you want to be closer to the top of the waiting list. I'm sorry, of the lottery drawing results. But if you're not towards the top, it doesn't mean that you won't have a favorable position on the waiting list, because I still need to do the sorting. So I'm going to scroll down real quick. This is the general drawing result. I'll scroll down. Should only take a little bit. And so you can hopefully see this enough to pick out your number. If not, you can send me a message in Zoom, and I will look up your number for you so you're not unsure where you fell. Scrolling the general drawing results right now, so it's all 227. So those are the general drawing results. As you can see, the order drawn is here, and then your actual lottery application number is there. The local drawing, I'll scroll down these as well. So the first lottery application number on the local drawing was A.0133. Then it goes down from there. This one only has 54 numbers. All right, so I know I have some questions here. Yep, A.0047 is what I'm going to look up first here, because I have a question about that one. A.0047, you were drawn 174th on the general list. You were not on the local list. And then the next one here, 0088. 0088, you were drawn 113th in the general drawing. You were not on the local list. 234. 0234. You were 72nd on the general list, not on the local list. 0036. 0036. You were 182nd on the general list, not on the local list. 0054. You were 125th on the general list. 0162. You were 225th on the general list and 46th on the local list. 0005. 0005, you were 117th on the general list, not on the local list. 0091, you were 207th on the general list, not on the local list. 0178, you were 209th on the general list and 47th on the local list. 0011, You were 103rd on the general list. 0149. You were 189th on the general list and 22nd on the local list. 0058. You were 51st on the general list and 51st also on the local list. 0016. You were 220th in the general drawing. 0195. You were 14th in the general drawing, not on the local list. Jocelyn, I see you're 0091. Yeah, you're not on the local list here, so I'm going to take down your name to follow up on that for you, because you just mentioned that you think you should be on the local list, so you were 0091. So I'll email you later on about that. And then now I think I'm at 0228. 0228, you were 28th in the general drawing. What time should we receive the waiting list? So normally I'm sending it out. This is a pretty big lottery. It has several waiting lists. I think there's 7 or 8 of them. So usually I'm sending them out around 10 or so. You will have it tonight, though. I just don't have an exact time. With me being 72nd, does that mean I have a chance at one of the apartments? So we really don't know right now, because I don't know who's ahead of you on the waiting list. You know, depending on what units you applied for, what your household type is, what other people's household type is above you. It's really hard to say. So yeah, I mean, you'll know more a little bit later on tonight. I'm sorry that it's not, you know, set in stone during the lottery. So general drawing, I have another question here because it's 0152. You were 48 on the general drawing, not on the local list. So a question here, how do I ask questions later or help get help submitting stuff? So you won't need to be submitting anything unless you are one of the top households on the waiting list. And the next step is going to be getting in touch with the leasing office over at Slade Farm to complete their lease screening. So you can email us throughout the process. So info@sdbhousing.com is the best way to get in touch with us. I'll put that in here, but it's in all of our documentation as well. So you can email us there about anything, and you'll know better. You'll have a better sense later on tonight as to, you know, if you're going to be called forward to the next step in the process. Question here is looking up 0196. You were 58 in the general drawing. And then another number here is 100, 0100. You were 46 in the general drawing. Yep, Chris, the results are going to be emailed to you later on tonight once I've sorted the results onto the waiting list. So that'll be within the next few hours. Does this mean anyone past number 30 will likely be added to the waiting list? So everyone is going to have a position on the waiting list, whether you're first or last. Every household has a position on the waiting list, and the waiting list stays the waiting list. So once all apartments are leased, once all affordable apartments are leased, these waiting lists stay in place. So the leasing office, if they have a vacancy, they go back to the waiting list and see who's next on the waiting list and contact people. Each year, you will be contacted to ask whether or not you're still interested in being on the waiting list if you're not one of the people who is leasing the apartment, if you're not one of the first people to lease. Yeah, how many low-income apartments are in the drawing? I think it's 30. I'm going to go, this is yeah, it's 30 total. This is just the info packet that I'm bringing up. And just for your reference, the waiting lists are on page 11, so you can kind of see them here, hopefully. This is the waiting list. This is how the results are going to be sorted, who has priority on each waiting list, and so forth. If we're on the waiting list when the other building's open, do we get notified and then placed? So they're pre-leasing the apartments now. So it's not as though, you know, if there's 8 apartments that are going to be available in August, they're not just screening for those 8 apartments. They're screening everyone. So there won't be a delay in knowing whether or not you're being invited forward to move on to the lease screening and the program screening. But you know, if there's any delays in delivery of those apartments, they will let you know, obviously. 0196, I think I already got you, but let me do that again. So 0196, you were 58 in the general drawing. So I'm going to work on the, hold on, how much are the unaffordable apartments going for? I don't have that answer for you, meaning the market rate apartments, I assume you're talking about. I don't know. Normally, there's really a range for how much more they are than the affordable apartments, but I would imagine if, let's see, we've got rent on page 3 here as well. Yeah, I would imagine they're going for several $100s more per month, but I don't know offhand. Let me just go, hold on a second here. I'll get back to your chat here. Okay. Are the drawings now for the first building being completed? Nope, it's for everything. So all of the waiting lists are going to be for both of the, or all of the affordable apartments. Yep, and the first units are expected to be available in August, whereas the additional units are expected to be available in October. Yep, so Courtney says, will we remain on the waiting list forever unless we choose to cancel? Yep, if your contact information changes, you should definitely notify the leasing office at Slade Farm, because after tonight, basically what SEB Housing is doing is we're creating the waiting list for them, but then we're sort of handing over the waiting list responsibility to the leasing office after tonight. So they will be responsible for updating any contact information and reaching out to applicants after, to complete lease screenings as they have a vacancy. And they are supposed to, management teams are supposed to be reaching out to everyone who's on their waiting list annually to confirm whether or not they want to remain on the waiting list, just to make sure it's a fresh waiting list. And when they have a vacancy, they're not reaching out to people who have no desire to live at the apartments anymore. So yeah, you just want to update your info. And then there's a question here, is A.0118. You were 149th on the general list. Yep, Lorenzo, you missed the drawing. It was at 6 o'clock, or a little bit after that, because I had some intro stuff to get through. But the gist of it is that I'm going to work on sorting the results from tonight's lottery drawing and creating the waiting list so that everyone is able to get that tonight in their inbox. So check your email later on tonight, hopefully by 10 or 11 o'clock. I'm sorry that it'll be late, but it's better than sending it tomorrow morning, hopefully, for some of you. And you will have a better understanding, I think, of where you fall on the waiting list, because the drawing results from tonight don't really tell you a whole lot. We don't know who applied for what units, who's ahead of you in these lists. Yep, so there's a question here, A.0134. I can look that up for you. You were 62nd on the general list. And Lorenzo, you too. If you have your lottery application number, I can tell you where you were drawn tonight. How should we expect them, is a question here, to primarily contact in the future regarding the waiting list, email or phone? Probably email is what I would assume for most leasing offices, but if they're not able to get in touch with you by email, they would have your phone number as well. That might depend a little bit on the individual leasing offices. Yep, so 0046. You were 67th in the general drawing, and you were 8th on the local drawing. Any other questions? Like I said, the next step is I'm going to sort these drawing results onto the waiting list. All of the waiting lists will be sent to you by email, and you'll be able to see if your application number is highlighted in green. That means that you're going to be immediately invited forward to get in touch with the leasing office and complete your lease screening with them. And there's another question here for 0222. You were 42nd on the local drawing list and 118th on the general drawing list. Yep, how many local preference apartments out of 30? So on the waiting list, I'm going to go to the info packet here. And there are 21 local preference waiting lists. Now, there was 54 local preference households. We don't know which apartment type they applied for. There's only 1 bedrooms and 2 bedrooms that have local preference. And again, everyone is on the local preference list. Even if you don't have local preference, you're just going to be further down the waiting list. So to give you just a sense of that, so for these 1-bedroom local preference apartments, the local preference households have priority and the non-local preference households will be below them. And then for the 2-bedroom units, as you can see here that have local preference, type 2 and 3 local preference households are first, followed by type 2 non-local preference households. So it depends on kind of what apartment you applied for. All of the disabled accessible apartments are not, they don't have local preference. All right, so I'm going to get to work on the sorting of these results, and you will get the email from me later on tonight with the attachments. And if you have any questions, please reach out to info@scbhousing.com. Yep, just a question here. Will you be able to tour the units beforehand? Of course. Yep, when you do your lease screening, I don't know the date of when they would have the units available for touring, but if they don't already, it should be very soon since they're available for occupancy soon. But yeah, you'll be able to tour the building and, you know, make decisions as to which unit you want to reserve that's available and all of that. All right, thank you everybody for your attendance, and we'll be in touch very soon. Have a good night.